So in order to create your portfolio, it's a pretty few easy steps. First, you need to open up Acrobat. Make sure that you're using a recent version of Acrobat. You simply need to go to File, Create, PDF Portfolio. File, Create, PDF Portfolio. Actually, that zoom in doesn't work very well, but so File, Create, PDF Portfolio. What? I don't know. Don't do any of that. That was a weird dialog box. You can physically just drag and drop files in here, but you can also add the files from this drop-down menu, whichever way you prefer to do it. Very important at this step. So I'm going to drop in some stuff here. Let's drop in that one. Very important, and I'm going to go ahead and change my view by clicking this little, I call it the hamburger icon. It sort of looks like a hamburger in a bad sense. The order in which these files appear is important. It's actually very important. These are the order in which they will appear in your portfolio. So you tend to want your strongest thing first and your second strongest thing last, or vice versa, really. It could be first. Your two strongest pieces should be your first and your last pieces, right? Remember, you're selecting 8 to 12 of these. And the order definitely matters. Now, it's not too hard to recreate these things. So you just simply click Create, and it's going to spit out oh god, that's terrible. It's even worse than the poster I just showed you guys. Here is the next tricky thing. I'm not... Okay, so one of the things that happened was that Adobe changed this like before we had a chance to really fix this assignment 100%. So I wish there was more options for you guys, but there's not a lot. You're going to have to distinguish yourself with your work on its own. One of the things that you'll need to do is you're going to need to create descriptions for each of your pieces. We're going to get into exactly what those descriptions should be and what you should talk about in just a second. I'm going to talk about what employers are looking for. But for now, here's the technical details of how to do this. One of the things that you'll have to do is you'll have to go to View, Portfolio, and then change this to Details. View, Portfolio, Details. Once here, there is a description field. It's kind of shrunk, so I'm going to click and drag it over like that. You can right-click any of these items and select Edit Value Description. So you right-click the item, and then you edit value description. Once here, it gives you a single line. You can copy. What I recommend you guys do is type up something in Word and copy and paste it in here. Keep in mind that it will delete any formatting that you create in Word, so don't worry about the formatting. So don't like bold a word or create a title. Just create a paragraph and then copy and paste it into here. It will hold much more text than what you probably think it will. Let's just double check. Yeah. So all of that is in the description. The other thing that you can do before you save it off is go to View, Portfolio, Preview File, so you can kind of see what it's going to look like on my end before you export it. Of course, to go back, you need to go to View, Portfolio, Details, so you kind of have to go back and forth. And once you're done with that, you simply need to save it. You're just going to click Save Portfolio. It'll come up with a dialog like this. You just tell it where to save. I guess like maybe choose a different folder, or let's see, where's my desktop? Oh, that's not on there. So choose a different folder. Select the desktop. Of course, you want to name it Dawson M. Just our standard naming convention, please. So last name, first initial, as always. And then once you click Save, that's it. That's pretty much all the technical details that you know. I did accidentally sort of skip over some steps, so let me cover those right quick. Before you actually get into Acrobat, where did I put? Before you get into Acrobat, you do need to save off your files correctly. You're going to be saving them for my screen, and file size is an issue. Where is Open Recents? So home portfolio. Here you go. Ah, stop. I don't need you to read stuff to me. You're going to be selecting work from anything that you've done in this class. Your Project 1, Project 2, Project 3, any of the assignments, whatever you want. You need to save your images as PNG, GIF, or JPEG before. So what you're going to do is you're going to save them off to your desktop or a folder. And you're going to, I recommend that you use File Save for Web. That's what you should do. Or in Photoshop, I think it's File Export Save for Web, Legacy. Those two dialog boxes will give you what you want. It is very important that you pick the correct format, either GIF, PNG, or JPEG. It's also important that your portfolios not be gigantic. If you hand me a 500 meg portfolio, that's going to be an issue. It's going to take forever for me to load, right? That would be pretty bad for an employer, right? If they had to sit there and wait for it to load, that would be very bad. If you bring in, you should save them off as Safer Web first. And then bring in the JPEGs, that you create, or PNGs or GIFs. Bring whichever one you brought in, and then bring those into your PDF portfolio, okay? And you'll want to keep your files under 4 or 5 megs, I'm thinking. I don't really have like a set restriction. But if your portfolio is just like, I don't know, like over 75 megs, let's say, that could be an issue. I don't know, let's see. What would 4 times 12 be? 96. Yeah, somewhere around 90 megs, like around 100 megs, you've probably exceeded what you should be doing. One last thing. Rather important, actually. Probably should have covered it first, but I forgot. You need to create a cover page. This is the very first thing an employer will see in your portfolio, so it needs to be good. It doesn't have to be super fancy. It can be simplistic. It can be elegant, but it needs to look good. It needs to look relevant. And it needs to cover some of the things that we're going to talk about what employers want. It's one of the few areas in which you can actually make your portfolio look different from other students. Because remember, you're applying for the digital media position, right? This $1,000 an hour job. I think that you would like this job. It's a good gig. I'm really surprised or excited about it. I'm not sure. Probably replacing me, honestly. Getting old. But anyway. All right, so that's what you need to do. And of course, your cover photo, you're going to export it the same way that you would do that. It is very important that you pick properly. If you pick a GIF and it makes your photo look very garbled, then that's a really big issue. You need to understand these file formats. It's an objective of the class. But honestly, if you go back to that infographic from week 9 or 10, it's going to be pretty simple. I think it has some pretty clear-cut bullet points at the end of each section, and it says when to use this. So it's pretty clear. There's no need for transparency. Actually, just to be clear, there are actually 4 formats. There's PNG 8 and PNG 24. I really won't be able to tell the difference, but just in case. And then, just ignore these last 2 lines. You do need to save it as a PDF, so make sure you are saving it as a PDF. Honestly, if you just click File, Save Portfolio, you're pretty good there. But you don't need to name it in this way, well, except for the last name, first initial. That's the only thing I really require. And then obviously you're going to put it in my Dropbox, not Professor Z's. Sorry, I ran out of time. I spent way too much time on this stupid poster. So, spent like 30 minutes on it. Anyway. Alright, so I'm going to stop the recording.